So let's dive into The Last Lesson. It's a short but incredibly powerful story by the French writer Alphonse Daudet. And while it's set during a war, you'll see that the real battle isn't happening on some field. Nope, it's taking place inside a classroom. It's a fight for language, for identity, and for that painful truth we all know, that sometimes we only value something when it's about to be lost forever. I mean, really think about that for a second. That sudden, sharp pang of regret. Well, that feeling is the absolute heart of this story. It's something we've all felt, right? And it's the exact journey our main character is about to take us on. So let's get started. All right, so our story starts through the eyes of a young boy named Franz. He's from a region in France called Alsace. And for him, this day is kicking off like pretty much any other. The sun's out, the birds are singing, and he has that frantic realization he is very, very late for school. And he's especially nervous today because his teacher, Monsieur Hamel, is supposed to quiz the class on participles. And, well, Franz knows absolutely nothing about them. So it's really no wonder that the world outside looks so much better, you know? The warm day, the birds, even the Prussian soldiers drilling in a field. Literally anything seems like a better option than facing his teacher. As he's rushing through town, he sees something that stops him in his tracks. There's a crowd, and they're all gathered around the bulletin board. Now, for the last 2 long years of the war, this board has basically been a messenger of doom. Lost battles, draft notices, orders from command. So he knows, deep down, that whatever is up there today, it's not going to be good news. And that's the thought that just flashes through his mind. He doesn't actually stop, he just keeps running past. But that little seed of anxiety has been planted. Something is different today. This is not just another ordinary morning. And wow, this slide just lays out the contrast perfectly. On the left, you've got the usual school day. A great bustle of chaos, right? Desks opening and closing, lessons being shouted out, a racket you could hear all the way from the street. But on the right, that's what Franz finds today. A deep, unsettling silence. It's as quiet as a Sunday morning, which means his usual plan of just sneaking in during the commotion, totally impossible. So, when Franz finally creeps into the classroom, the weirdness only gets more intense. What he's about to hear isn't a scolding about grammar. It's an announcement, an order from Berlin that is about to change every single life in that room forever. Okay, now check out the details here. First, there's M. Hamel, the teacher. He's dressed up in his finest clothes, the kind he only wears for special occasions. And even weirder than that, look at the back benches. They're usually empty, but today they're filled with the old folks from the village, the former mayor, the postmaster, and they all have these incredibly sad, somber looks on their faces. The pieces are starting to come together, but Franz, he still doesn't get it. And then, M. Hamel delivers the news. In Franz's own words, the announcement hits him like a thunderclap. This is it. This is their very last lesson in French. An order has come from Berlin. Starting tomorrow, only German will be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. And suddenly, that crowd back at the bulletin board, it makes a terrible, chilling kind of sense. Now, you might be asking, an order from Berlin? What's that about? Well, for that, we need a super quick history lesson. The story is set right after the Franco-Prussian War, a conflict that France lost. And as a result, these 2 regions you see here, Alsace and Lorraine, were taken over by Prussia, which was part of the German Empire. So this isn't just some new school policy. This little classroom is on the front line of a cultural takeover. For young Franz, hearing those words from M. Hamel, it changes everything. This abstract idea of losing his language is suddenly not abstract at all. In an instant, it becomes this deeply personal, painful reality. And it becomes a very powerful lesson on regret. And just like that, this wave of regret washes over him. He thinks of all the lessons he skipped, all the times he went seeking birds' eggs instead of actually studying. His grammar book, his history book, I mean, just moments ago they were a total nuisance, something heavy to carry. But now they feel like precious old friends he can't possibly bear to part with. Hamel sees that look on Franz's face. He gets it. But he doesn't just scold the boy. He uses this moment to teach everyone in the room, saying this is the great trouble with Alsace, this habit of always putting off learning until tomorrow. But now, as they all realize that tomorrow for their language is never going to come. And he doesn't hold back. He says, look, everyone is to blame here. The parents, who would rather have their kids earning a little extra money than getting an education. The students, of course, who would rather go play. And even himself, the teacher. He admits he'd send the kids on errands for him, or just call off school when he felt like going fishing. They all took their language for granted.
But M. Hamill doesn't just let them wallow in regret. No, in these final moments, he delivers his most important lesson ever. And it's not about grammar, it's about power. He reveals how their language is so much more than just words. It is the actual key to their prison.
He starts talking about the French language with this passion, this patriotism that Franz has never, ever seen from him before. He tells them it's the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical. And he tells them that they must guard it, protect it, and never, ever forget it.
And this right here is the heart of his entire message. He explains that their language is more than just how they talk. When a people are conquered, holding on to their own language is a profound act of resistance. It's the one thing that connects them to their identity, to their culture, to their freedom. It is, like he says, the key that can unlock their prison.
And in this moment of beautiful, heartbreaking irony, Franz listens to the grammar lesson, and he understands it perfectly. Everything suddenly seems so simple, so easy, and he realizes why. It's because he had never listened so carefully before, and M. Hamill had never explained with so much patience. Everyone finally gets the value of the lesson, now that it's their very last one. And so we get to the end. The final moments of this class are just charged with an emotion so powerful that words can barely even contain it. And it all leads to this final, unforgettable farewell. The church clock begins to strike noon. At that very same moment, the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers, returning from their drills, blast from just outside the window, a brutal reminder of their new reality. Monsieur Hamel stands up, and to Franz, he looks taller than he has ever seen him. He tries to speak. He gets out, "My friends," but something just chokes him. The emotion is too much. He can't go on. So, without saying another word, he turns to the blackboard. And with every last bit of strength he has, he writes 2 words as large as he possibly can. Vive la France! Long live France! It's his final act. Silent, powerful, an act of pure patriotism and defiance. Then, without a word, he just leans his head against the wall and gestures to them all. School is dismissed. The last lesson leaves us with this powerful question to think about in our own lives. It's a profound story that reminds us that our language, whatever form that takes for you, isn't just a tool to communicate. It's a carrier of our culture, it's a symbol of our freedom, and it's a huge part of who we are. Really, it's a timeless warning to cherish the things that define us before we find ourselves facing our own last lesson.